Welcome back to Trendsetters with me, Shiko Kaitani, on K24. Now, in part 2 of our show, we catch up with social entrepreneur Madhvi Dalal, who has quite the journey to tell, helping women and girls live in dignity through access to reusable sanitary pads. This, up next, is obviously a story that has been life-changing for so many, and it's also garnered attention from all corners of the globe. Here is what PadMad is all about.
PadMad is basically a social enterprise, and we're trying to move away from period poverty, combating that and progressing towards period dignity. So what we basically do, we have three pillars that we work with: is education, empowerment, and we manufacture sustainable, reusable pads. By profession, I'm a pharmacist actually, and I'm also a yoga instructor and dancer. So this really doesn't fall into that line, although I was, practicing yoga in some informal settlements here, and that's how I came face to face with what is known as period poverty. So one thing led to another, and I traveled a lot to understand the problem. Why is there a problem? How big is it? Where is it? And in that, I realized that, there was a time when I really had to stop walking and really do something about it. The only thing is I didn't know what to do. What I did know was disposable pads were really not that efficient because of logistics, to actually get to children or women far away consistently would just be impossible. So I happened to be at Lama Yoga Festival for teaching yoga, and next to me were some friends from Singapore who were talking about reusable pads. And so I was like, oh, what are those and how do they work, and how is the whole program? And so we started talking, and then I came up with a concept on thinking, okay, this could work here. So really, the way it is now is very different to how we started. So when I first started, Shika, I remember phoning people from Lamu and saying, okay, any old t-shirts you have, bring them to my house. So we washed those, and then we started cutting the shapes, and then we took needles and threads and patterns to schools and say, okay, boys and girls, this is how you make one, go make enough for yourselves or your mums or whoever. That's how it started, with people's old clothes, which we washed at home, dried at home, ironed at home, and then started reusing that. And then I started approaching textile companies for their offcuts. And now we're in a different place where, we have a larger volume, and so we work with the local companies. Luckily, we know the cotton has been grown here and also processed in Kenya. So, we work with the circularity program with Yunus Environment Hub, so trying to make ourselves as green as possible, but also the partners that we work with, for example, the companies. In terms of the three pillars that I was telling you about, one of them is empowerment. So when I first started, we started teaching the boys and girls how to stitch. And then I realized that was really not the best way forward. So I said, okay, if the girls and boys don't have time, maybe I'll teach their mums in the community. And then I used to set up little hubs in different parts and said, okay, now this is how you make it. Make enough for yourselves in the community and sell, and live happily ever after. And that didn't really work out because of the quality. So because a lot was compromised once I leave, a lot was with being compromised. Substituting the material because of accessibility, affordability, also the hygiene, you can't control so many things. So I realized that I was doing more injustice, because the whole point coming from a medical background was, we don't want them to get secondary infections, but also we want the product to work properly, because if you give a sub quality product to a girl and it doesn't work out, she's not going to try it again. So now what we do is work with the empowerment program. So we still want to help women and some men in the community to be empowered. So we have categories with marginalized, so HIV positive, teen mums, incarcerated women, to help us manufacture this. But we're KEB certified, so we need to make sure that the premises and the product stick to some kind of minimum standard. Yeah. I'll try not to be too harsh on this, but I love these conversations because if you realize any disposable pad manufacturer does not have the obligation to write the contents. Whereas if shampoo, you have like 1,000 ingredients on there to see what's going on in your hair, but such an intimate product, there is no obligation. So, do you know that disposable pads are made up almost 90% plastic? Most people don't know that. When I go to schools and ask them questions, they think it's cotton, and actually, there's no cotton. Right. They have dioxin, which is a bleach, they have plastic. So, in line with that, with the reusables, at least people know what's in them. And with the KEB certification, it's pretty intense. You know, the pH needs to be correct. There's a microbial content of so many microbes. There's adsorbency. So all that is there, and it's justified. So there's literally no comparison. If anything, nobody's questioning why is there no contents? Why are people using something so intimately without knowing what's inside? 5 years and a bit on, we've passed 61,000 beneficiaries just of the product. Also the education, we involve boys and men in the community, so that's over 40,000. But just of the product, 61,000 girls and women who use the product. We have surveys on how they're getting on, you know, attendance, how much has it improved, going to exams, comfort, lack of cramps. We have surveys which follow through, and yeah, it's been extremely successful, yeah. I was in Mara last week, and so there was a company who had gone with reusable pads, and the beneficiary was using them to wash her utensils. What? So she had not been told what this is for. And that's why we need the education. You know, we need to show them how to use a wash, assuming there's not enough or plenty of water. You know, we have to give them these scenarios, but also to make sure that we're telling them this is more about their dignity, and most importantly, that it's not just a poor man's product. I mean, I use them, people in the UK use them, and so it's really just to save money, to have comfort, and to have a product which you don't have to, you know, pollute the environment. So bringing all that into education, plus we insist that the boys will be in the conversation, because it's obvious, you know, they're part of the community, they are part of this whole conversation, and to help destigmatize, you know, things which happened a few years ago, embarrassment in school, and the girl, you know, she's deeply affected. She goes and kills herself. We don't want those things to happen. And it's just a matter of having a conversation. Once we leave, we should hopefully have a healthy environment where there's peer-to-peer conversations, people are more educated, and they celebrate this rather than feeling shy and just being stigmatized, yeah. I mean, many people call me a feminist, but I'm actually not. I'm too quick to say I'm not. I'm an equalist, which is my own word, but the reason why we bring the boys in is to give them scenarios. For example, a girl has stained her dress in class, what would you do? What would the girls want you to do? What would you do? What is right? Or what is the consequence of, you know, somebody who needs pads, you know, and it's at home or something. Also, we do sexual and reproductive health rights, you know, things which go on either outside or inside the home. How do you address them? What's the protocol in Kenya? So once you have a little bit of information, you know, we have a great issue in Kenya of teen pregnancies, especially after COVID. Boys are involved in this conversation. So they really, once they're in there and it's not segregated, not separated, it's just an easier conversation to have, to know your own power And also not to feel left out. I mean, that's just simple.
Yeah.
Boys should not feel left out. It's been great because we get testimonials. You know, girls just don't have to. You know, transactional sex actually can also happen in different ways, not necessarily physically, but say you're at home and you need to ask your father for money to buy pads, and it may not be a straightforward conversation, it may not even be possible. So that kind of embarrassment, that favor you need to do is just not happening anymore, which is such a big thing. So any girl who would have any chance of a relationship with a male, already that is transforming to say that, okay, this is my right, this is where I belong in society, and this is actually, you know, menstruation is a human right. The product should be a human right. So that's the conversation which is going. We have great testimonials to say, you know, now in boarding school or at home, we are okay. And it's really very heartwarming. It's been a bit of a process because there's just so much need. In fact, in our program, there's some men also. So for example, we have an old gentleman who is a grandfather, but he has to look after his 9 grandchildren because his son would not. So he works for us. So in terms of who we look for, we really look for their tiers, especially the incarcerated. So when you leave prison, for example, you have somewhere to go to and you have some money, or you have somewhere to go to, maybe you know have no money, and then there's another tier where you actually have nowhere to go to, your family has moved away, or they don't want to know you and you have no money. So we pick those with partnership with another company to say, okay, these are the women who will probably be the ones to go through recidivism and go back into prison because they really can't survive outside. So let's help them, at least train them, at least give them some financial stability until but also give them some confidence on how to live in this world. And then they're free to go. The main thing here is from financial stability or financial kind of inclusion, you get into a place of confidence and into dignity. I mean, that is our ultimate aim. Health is one, confidence is another, but our ultimate aim is to make sure this individual, not necessarily just the woman, but this individual has the dignity to then make their own choices. The policy change, I mean, you know, I think with the policy change and the bottlenecks, I think there's a whole mindset. We need to have different conversations from consumerism into a mindset. So for example, the plastic bag ban, overnight it happened. Now if we're saying this is 90% plastic, BPA, BPB, then eventually you have to acknowledge that this is also environmentally unfriendly. If, you know, if you go into Kibera, where do you think people put their soil pad? You know, where is the soil pad going? It's literally called flying pads. You know, you fling it over your shoulder. Either the dog takes it or lands on somebody's front door. Right. In Samburu, they put it down the anthills. Right. You know, in the refugee camps, they just dig the hole, and that's it. Yeah. Or the pit latrines, they get clogged in schools. So to acknowledge that this is not really good for our environment, as plastic bags were, that's one thing. Is I'm not saying eradicate it, but to at least bring in this big campaign of awareness that, do you know, this product takes 500 or 800 years to decompose, really. And the other thing which is most helpful is to bring in a dialogue which is positive for any other reusable product or any other product which is not environmentally unfriendly. They have so many alternatives now in the supermarkets. You just pick what you want. There is no obligation still on disposable pads, but the government is working on that. But still, as a consumer, you can pick your reusable product as you would your potatoes. Everyone needs to understand that just maybe one generation ago, people were using cloth, for example. So this is my version, is just a fancy way with wings, a ready-made thing, which is just very similar. Yeah. That's one thing. And then the other thing is to understand that it has health impact, it has environmental impact, it has economy. So if you're going to be able to save all these things, it's already a great thing. And then there's a policy saying that all secondary school girls are going to get disposable pads. Can that not change to say, once you've been given a reusable pad kit, I don't need to go back to that child. I can go to the next village, to the next school. So, you know, that kind of policy change or change within the market itself to understand, well, actually, this is a great alternative. I'm not just saying reusable pads, but whatever suits you as the consumer, but reusable is the way forward. I mean, it's a progressive country anyway. In Africa, you know, Kenya's got these plastic ban. It's just one step forward to really make sure that the consumers are listening. In a layman's way, if you can wash your underwear, you can wash these because of the way they're made. However, we actually demonstrate how to wash these with a little bit of water and to make sure you maintain hygiene and to make sure you know how to maintain hygiene. And you do not assume that a girl will have the luxury of washing her pad in school. You just don't. She doesn't have the privacy, she may not have the running water, she may not. But wherever you wash your underwear, this is how you would wash it, this is how you would dry it, and this is how you'd maintain hygiene. We're very lucky because we have fashion designers and models advocating for this. We have sports people advocating for this. You know, we have big celebrities advocating for this. We even have men advocating for this.
Yeah,
so
what's his name?
Kipchoge.
Kipchoge.
Yes, yeah. So his camp, for example, use this. He comes to workshops with us to empower girls and women, to say this is the right way forward, this is what you shouldn't be doing at home, and this is what you should be doing, etc. So that's a good message to people who want to listen. But I really think the only way to do this is to go out there and really be open. And frankly, my daughter, she wouldn't use anything else because it's great comfort, great convenience, and it's just cool. You know, the only reason why she'd change a pad ever would be because she's tired of the design. They could try the product, they could shout out loud about reusables, and they could maybe understand what they're using right now. Disposable pads, you know, the dioxin, sometimes they get a rash, sometimes it has cervical issues. You know, what is dioxin? It's bleach. What's the environmental impact? You know, the breathability, etc., etc. If they're getting infections, you know, there's so much. They could understand their menstrual health. With a reusable pad, you can actually understand your emotional, whatever went on for the whole month. It is actually like a blueprint in your period. So it's good to talk. We have something big coming up. Actually, we recently won the Bayer Foundation Award, which is an international award. And with that, we're developing a new product, especially for teen girls. So hopefully that will be launched very soon. There was a documentary done on us over the last 2 years, and they won 10 international film awards. One of them was a Cannes Award. And I went to the last, because they've been going through the festival, so I went to one in Amsterdam. And they won that, and I was there. It was very cool. So hopefully that documentary will be out to watch soon, yeah.
We'd like to thank all the entrepreneurs as well as those who are in the philanthropic space for taking time to speak to trendsetters and sharing their story with us. If you do know someone who's making a difference, whether they actually will inspire someone on how to make that money or they're impacting their community, let us know through our social media platforms. You can actually DM us as Trendsetters Kenya, or you can go ahead and also get in touch with us through K24 platforms on Instagram, Facebook, as well as X. Thanks for watching. My name is Shiko Kaitani. We'll see you next week.